So again, welcome. I'm glad we had a good turnout. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to go through some things a little bit more quickly than others. But as Rich said before, if you have any questions, comments about anything at all related to anything going on in Stone Harbor, the Property Owners Association has the ability for you to submit questions. And as I said, we distribute these through with the borough and the mayor. So we don't have a Q&A per se about what I'm going to talk about right now. Some things will come up with council, but we're always, and we get questions all the time. And sustainability is obviously a very key thing. We live on an island. You've heard this before from me and from Wally Bishop, who preceded me. Two things are a reality. The water is coming up, and the island, for a number of reasons, is going down. And so the reason why we're here is because we're surrounded by water. But there's a lot of things we have to do now that, frankly, 20 years ago weren't even on the horizon. And so Rich talked about council and the challenges in front of our administrative bodies here. They're way different than they used to be. We kid around and say, these jobs used to be shaking hands and kissing babies, and now it's a lot of hard work. And so part of what we try to do is assist in that, both from information going back and forth, but actually also taking some of the skills of our trustees, but our members, that can play. And I'm going to highlight how that's even going to be more, has been since we talked to you last time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the beach. Obviously things are going on as we speak. I was down there at about 6:30 this morning to see what the latest trajectory was. And so we're going to talk about the beach today. Mark de Blasio is going to talk. Our other big talk is regarding flood management. A lot of activity has been going on since last year. We have really changed our direction significantly for a number of reasons. And so there's been a lot of activity, and SHPOA has been directly involved in that activity. So we want to talk about it. And then I'm just briefly going to talk about bay dredging, water conservation, and you all should have gotten a survey regarding offshore wind, and I'm just going to mention a little bit about that because I know there's a lot of interest there. So let's talk about the beach. First of all, right off the top, the borough has absolutely nothing to do with the scheduling of what's happening, when it's happening, and so on. This is Army Corps of Engineers, New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and the folks that are out there now have been, this project started up in Ocean City, Sea Isle City, other places in North Jersey, hit Avalon, now in Stone Harbor. And a lot of things can push this behind. We were supposed to be in a position where we're just about done now, and that has not happened. Nothing to do with the borough. The borough didn't say, hey, Memorial Day, 4th of July, that'd be a great time to blow sand on the beach. Didn't happen. Now, the benefit of it, however, is we are in a much calmer period of storms than we would be if we were in February. In fact, our last beach fill was 2017. The first half of it coming from Hereford Inlet was done in February. The second half was done in June. And the first half piece was nearly gone before we started the season. Now, it was right offshore, and a lot came back in, but this is actually a good time for the beach to do the work we're doing. Maybe not the folks here. So, how long is this thing going to take? We didn't start until the 5th of June. That was 6 weeks behind when we thought we were going to start. It's difficult to get an estimate because there's too many things we can't predict. It's like if you ask me, what's the stock market going to be in 6 months? I give an educated guess, but that's it. Personally, I believe we're going to have pipe on the beach certainly through the 4th of July weekend. And I'll talk a little bit how this is going to work. And by the time, there's a lot of heavy equipment down there, And I wouldn't be surprised if that's not off the beach and everything's clean until August. Maybe we'll be doing a little bit better, but we shall see. Equipment breaks, you get storms, Other things happen, unpredictable, but we need this sand. Most of the beaches are receiving sand. So here's what happened with the sand situation. You have so much money. It's allotted by the federal government. 65% comes from the feds. Basically, 25% comes from the state, and 10% in round numbers comes from the borough. So that money becomes fixed. And the sand, therefore, becomes fixed. Now, we're getting a lot more sand than we expected back in March, because the price to get that sand, diesel fuel has come down. You remember what prices were for things like diesel last year, right? They have come down a lot. These things use a lot of fuel to do what they're doing. So we got more sand. We're not going to turn any sand away. Originally, there wasn't going to be any sand north of 90th Street. This was based on some previous data that said that would be the best thing to do. So back in the fall, SHPOA looks at these surveys that we get twice a year all the time. So we provided some information to the borough. We provided a letter along with a borough letter to the DEP and Army Corps saying, we really think you need to think about these northern beaches. They said, thank you very much for your input. But when they resurveyed in May, they saw what we saw, that some of the northern beaches absolutely use sand. But the sand is fixed. We don't have any more sand to go to those beaches. So basically what has happened is there's been a reallocation of sand down the beach. They're trying to harmonize the beach. So, and as you all know, 116th Street is a very different beach sand-wise than 108th Street. So they're trying to harmonize. Nature's going to take its path after that, but they're trying to harmonize the beaches. They have a precise template. They have GPS on the bulldozers. In the old days, they had a flag with little pink marks off. Everything's done on GPS on the bulldozers. So they have an exact template. This monster that you see here that always reminds me of something for the first Star Wars movie, they use that looking at elevations going out into the water. So these things go out pretty far. That's why they're so high up in the air. And they're checking the slope of the beaches out there as they go along. And I said that things break down. I was at the shack the other day, and one of the lieutenants told me they had to go out. The thing got stuck offshore, and the guy didn't know how to swim in. So SHPP to the rescue. Things break down. So they're closing beaches in 1,000-foot sections. 1,000 feet is about 4 blocks. Okay? So, and I actually found out they're not allowed to close any more than that. So 4 blocks at a time, and they'll move down to the next beach. Now, initially, because they weren't going to do, so the pipe came in at 91st Street, because they were just going to run south. When they decided to go north, they had to do things a little atypically to go down there. And as of this morning, all of that is done, and they're heading in a southern direction. Now, that pipe will go all the way down to the 127th Street groin, because they only have one inlet, and that's 91st Street. So they'll lay the pipe down the beach, they'll blow the sand out, the bulldozers move everything around, then they shut down and go to the next beach. So the pipe will be there, all right? Pipe's going to be there. And Public Works will be putting crossovers, sand crossovers, so you can get from one side of the pipe to the other to get down to the water side. It's very important you use those crossovers. And I'm not talking to you guys because I know you're using the crossovers, but kids should not. These are old, rusted, nasty pipes that, kids should not be on these. So the other thing I want to remind you we put out in the blast is this is not just for you to get over with your beach chair. This is for EMS access. So something happens on the beach, and there isn't a week that goes by that either the police or EMS don't have to get down there. So keep your stuff away from there so that they can have access to it, get over, and to get down. So that's an important safety thing. Now, the beaches, so this operation is 24/7. We're putting 700,000 cubic yards down, and it takes the beaches a while to equilibrate, because the beach they initially make is not a natural beach. And what I mean by that is the waves and the tide can cause a hill where the water meets, and Public Works has to rake that off. Now, some beaches won't see that because they're not putting as much sand in as other beaches. I'm on 110th Street. That's a really bad beach. They're going to put a lot more sand down there than some of the other beaches. And so you may see some of the things, it takes a while to equilibrate. Now, what is 700,000 cubic yards? To me, this is like when they tell you what the national debt is, and you're just like, I don't have a feeling for what that number is. But we've all seen a dump truck. 35,000 dump trucks of sand is what we're getting. Imagine that going over the 96th Street Bridge. So that's the amount of sand that's coming in there that has to be moved around, okay? Incredible amount. So that's the operation that's going on right now, and that's why it's coming in from offshore. Everything's coming from Townsend's Inlet. We are not allowed to use Hereford Inlet, and we're probably going to abandon the effort to get back in there. We're probably going to be looking for a new borrow site. Actually, there's already money set aside from the budget that came for this fill to look for a new borrow site, because there's a lot of permitting that needs to be done to do that, okay? So what can we do after the sand's put in? You know, a key thing is sand retention. And we really haven't, and when I say we, I'm talking about Army Corps, DEP, the borough, hasn't really done anything on sand retention. Our jetties were built in the 60s. When they finish the beach fill, most of these jetties you won't even see. Even now, most of these jetties, I mean, you know, kids are going over it, so they're not acting as jetties. So one of the things that we're collectively looking at is, should we be doing something with the jetties? That's not cheap, but the beach fill is $25 million. That's not cheap. So there are no low-cost solutions. I shouldn't say there are none, but the big things that you might do cost a lot of money. And again, where's that money coming from? We have to petition the state, we have to petition U.S. Army Corps engineers, and so on. There are other opportunities we can do. Beach scraping. What this refers to is going, and this is a picture from Avalon last year from my boat. They go down at low water at a lunar event where you can get bulldozers pretty far out, and they push sand up. Now, what Avalon does is they take it to their northern beach because they need sand there. What we might be doing is just taking beaches that are having a problem and rebuilding the berm. So that's something that we want to take a look at. But NJDEP, we were on a call with them, I don't know, 6 weeks ago. And they said, that's all well and good, but don't do anything that disturbs the point. The point is very, very important for a lot of our critters in the area, birds in particular. So when you say that, you have to ask yourself, well, what's the point? Okay? This is the point in 1995. Thank you, Google Earth. Okay? That little red area there is the point. You can see there's a lot of water in between. There's a lot of sand out there. For boaters, it was a lot of fun getting through this stuff, but that was the point. In fact, when you walked west, not south, when you were going now. So let's fast forward to 2002. This is after a huge beach fill was done, and you can see that what's happening here is your sand is starting to build up here and move in this direction. We're starting to get a little bit different beach. Now, in 2008, we had a massive beach fill. So they're putting 750,000 in. 2.6 million cubic yards was put in, I think it was 2002. You can see here the big change now on the point. This is something that we're used to seeing here. Also notice this. You know, at low tide, you could walk over there, but you better be paying attention to the tide coming in, or you're swimming back with your beach chair, okay? Now, let's go a little further. 2017, we had, again, multiple beach fills, including the one with Sandy. Look what's gone on here now. This area has closed in, and now we've got all this sand down here. So you can see this thing is rapidly changing, and here we are today. All right? almost down to Anglesey, as you can see. And actually last year, the inlet was in pretty good shape. A lot of that sand just continues to move further and further offshore. So when the DEP says, don't screw up the point, it's like, well, which year? Which version of the point we're talking about? This place is always changing. But it's very, very important. So we took them at face value and said, okay, we need to know what the point is today. So Mark de Blasio's company was contracted by the borough to get down and get detailed information on the point. So these red lines are survey points, okay, where they basically go from the dunes and they go straight out in a perpendicular fashion to the water, and they get elevation data every, I don't know, something like 10 feet. So they generate a lot of data. We also found out something we didn't know, that there was some surveys done in 2016 and 2017 and 2018. So this is great. We have all these data to take a look at to better define what the point is. So this is a critical factor. We also have these, so since, I don't know, maybe at least 2009, we've been getting Stockton State University Coastal Research Center to give us twice a year, spring and fall. Here are the 8 points that we measure going down the beach, nominally spaced. And these are the data that we sent to DEP when we said, you really gotta go here. What? You really gotta go down to the, come on, Jeff, I'm trying to go in the, this thing has a mind of its own. Okay, so you really need to have those detailed data to understand what's going on with your beaches. Okay, so we get it twice a year, and we only get it twice a year. So how do we tell DEP what's going to happen? And the way you do this is Doug Gaffney, who's our coastal engineer, I think we hired about 2 years ago, something around then. He put a plan together. He talked about it last year. He said, here's a number of things we can do to help our beaches. And now we have to work with DEP and Army Corps to say this is going to be a do no harm for the point, but will help our beaches. So what we need to do is we need to continue to get data, but at a much higher frequency and density than we're getting today. So what I've shown you here is a picture of the 108th Street. I say 108th Street because that's one of the survey points that's shown up there, with 2 jetties that you can barely see. You know, there was a day when these did something. They don't do anything anymore. So this is a beach where we might do that beach scraping, where we could pull near beach sand, because a lot of times we have gullies at low tide. There's beach, it's just on the other side of a 1-foot gully. Bringing that in helps protect the dunes, but also gives you more recreational space. And there's kind of a natural ebb and flow, because the sand tends to go out before it goes south, down to the point. So this is one of the things that we need to take a look at. And the other area, what in God's name did I push that time? The other area is 123rd Street. This was actually a beach where we were asking DEP, really didn't need to put sand. And the problem with putting sand on this beach is that jetty is shot. And so it goes away very, very quickly. Now, I can say that. You can get down there in 2 weeks and walk the beach and see it, but where are the numbers to tell us what's going on, right? So it's important to find a way, in a cost-effective way, to get some more data on these beaches. So we've been talking to the borough about this with Doug Gaffney, and we need to get more data. Now, you guys have all seen when you're driving out and they're doing road work, stuff like this, right? This is a survey point. The top of that is a GPS is tying into satellites, and this pole is we know what the height of that pole is. So this is not just giving me, like when you're in your car and, you know, what street am I on? This is telling the elevation of that beach. So what we want to do now, and it's just perfect time because we just got the beach fill and things are going to be rapidly changing, is to get a lot more data. So what SHPOA has worked with the borough, The borough is going to buy this equipment, get a license for this equipment, and SHPOA is basically going to underwrite as a project of the year. They're going to underwrite the cost of that. Well, that's step one. We have the equipment. But we got to get people out there that are going to get these data. So SHPOA is also going to be providing some volunteers to get trained on the equipment and to go out and collect data. And we'll be collecting, we really need to collect data not just in the summertime, but all year long. So Doug will be directing us, this is what I need and this is when I need it. And then we'll be getting some volunteers that are going to help out, which, by the way, we already have one of our members' son who is in school and in engineering. He's going to be one of our volunteers. This is an awesome opportunity for students that want to help out with what's going on for sustainability, but also it ties into some of the things that they may be doing down the road with their career. So we're very excited about this. This will be getting, started very soon, and we had a meeting on it the other day. So that's what's going on with the beach. As I said, I think that we're going to be looking at this for a good piece of the rest of the month and certainly into July. But they're making really good, the last 2 days they've been making a lot more progress than they did the first week. So, hope for the best, plan for the worst, but be prepared. Whatever street you're on, expect to see pipe. Use the crossovers, be careful with everything, but this is an absolutely necessary thing, and as I said, the borough has no input as to the timing of when this occurs. When the money flows in and they get the people, then you take it and go. So that's what we're going to ending up with the beach, and as I said, this morning I was looking, they are starting to move south, and they're down around they're going to be working down around the shack. I think I saw from right now, it looks like something like 95 to 90th was closed right now, and they'll be moving down these sections. So we want to shift gears to another very important part of what we work on, is sustainability. Mark de Blasio is the borough engineer, but he also works with a lot of municipalities. And so Mark not only brings his expertise on whatever we're trying to do, but, hey, North Wildwood did this, and these people did that, and we're all working on, flood stuff. So Mark brings a lot of experience into that, and so he's going to give you an update on where we are on the flood mitigation work.